joining us this morning in a rare Thursday morning appearance, Joe diGenova is with us. Joe, good morning.
Good morning from Palm Springs.
Nice. Glad to see that you're still joining us, because I know it's bright and early for you out there, so we appreciate you getting up early to join us. Joe, I said yesterday, I said we have to talk to Joe diGenova, because I'm sure he's going to have a thing or two to say about Jeff Sessions getting the boot. So is this a good day for Joe diGenova?
Well, it's a good day for the Department of Justice, the President of the United States, and even for Jeff Sessions. This is long overdue. The President is entitled to have an Attorney General who works full-time, as Jeff did, but unfortunately Jeff couldn't work on all things because he had recused himself from the Russian probe. As a result of that, he injured himself severely inside the department and outside the department, and certainly with the President. So the President has chosen wisely. Matt Whitaker is going to be a terrific acting Attorney General for 210 days. And also may actually become the final Attorney General when all is said and done. But he's an excellent guy and a very smart fellow.
How do you view the timing of this? Was this a well executed move by the White House immediately after the election, and as far away as they can from Nancy Pelosi being in charge of the House?
It was a perfect move. This was the time to do this. I don't think they were worried about who was in charge of the House. They needed to get this done as soon as the numbers had increased in the Senate for Republicans, so that Sessions' successor could be confirmed much easier than might have otherwise been the case. And that's what they were concerned about, a successor.
Okay.
The left already calling for Matt Whitaker to recuse himself because he has an opinion. And you're not allowed to have an opinion, even a legal one. Do we see him stay in the job, or do we see someone else replace him? Several names have been floated already.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of speculation about his successor, but here's the thing the President is going to do. The reason he's got this guy taking the job out for a test drive is he's been working with Matt Whitaker for a year. He likes him. Whitaker's I don't know if you've seen him. He's a big hulking guy. He has a command presence as opposed to the diminutive Mr. Sessions. Matt has worked with the President and with General Kelly. I'm sure some other names will be floated. I've talked to people about some names myself with people over there at the White House, so it's not unusual. But the President wants to make sure that the person he appoints doesn't have his own agenda as Attorney General, and that he understands that his job is to not only be the Attorney General of the United States and attorney for all the U.S. government, but to be aware of his responsibilities to the office of the President as well. And unfortunately, Jeff couldn't do that because of the way he had postured himself. I can tell you the person who won't be Attorney General, and that's Rod Rosenstein. And in a little noticed event, when Rod Rosenstein went to see General Kelly for his regular meeting, he was told to cancel a speech at the Aspen Institute today on the West Coast. I think Mr. Rosenstein's days are numbered.
How numbered are we talking?
I would think relatively shortly, because Mr. Whitaker has taken over control of supervision of the Mahler thing, and so Mr. Rosenstein's usefulness as an overseer has now evaporated. That was a strategic move to strip Rosenstein of his responsibilities. If he doesn't quit, I think he'll be fired.
All right, we're going to keep our eyes on that for sure. Thank you, as always, for giving us that lead. Let's talk about Matthew Whitaker. The press is sorting through a lot of the things he said in the past in order to establish whether or not they can disqualify him. One of the things he said last year was right here on this program. That was June 9th of last year, immediately following James Comey's testimony before Congress. I asked Matt whether or not he considered anything that Comey said to have enhanced the case of obstruction against the president. Here was Matt's answer. I want you to take a listen. So as a former U.S. attorney, you must have some sense, though, of whether or not we're closer to an obstruction of justice case after yesterday's testimony or further from it. How do you feel about that?
There is no criminal obstruction of justice charge to be had here. There's just the evidence is weak. No reasonable prosecutor would bring a case on what we know right now. And, because it all boils down to what was the president's intent, and we really don't have any evidence of what the president's intent was.
Okay, so that was Matt last year. Does that give you more encouragement too for him to take this role?
Well, yeah. I mean, he'd even be stronger today. He wouldn't give that answer today. The answer he would give today is under Article 2, the president can fire anybody he wants in the executive branch, and his motive is irrelevant. So he could have hated James Comey, and it wouldn't have mattered. So anyway, Matt is a smart fellow, and he'll do a great job for 210 days, and he might even be the Attorney General. But we'll see. The president may want somebody with a big name.
Do we start to see some of the declassification now that we've been waiting for that has not come? What are we going to see?
Yes, the president has indicated that he's going to order the declassification. I think it's going to happen relatively quickly.
What do you think we're going to see, Joe? Declassification. What exactly are we going to see declassified?
We're going to see the excisions from the FISA applications involving Carter Page. We're going to see the James Baker 302s, the Bruce Orr 302s. There's all sorts of information. It's going to be substantial. It's going to drive the Democrats crazy up on the Hill. Adam Schiff will be screaming obstruction of the Mueller investigation, and it won't matter because the Mueller investigation is over except for some hanger-on cases about people making false statements to him. But other than that, obviously there's no Russian collusion, and there can't be because there wasn't any.
All right, more in a second with Joe. Thank you, Joe. Well, I want to get more from your perspective on what's next for the Mueller investigation and also what happened with that declassification material showing up in the hands of the Inspector General at the Justice Department and now possibly getting out. You can help us navigate that in a second. We're talking to Joe diGenova, legal analyst, former U.S. attorney. Joe, the president was the one, it seemed, who tapped the brakes on declassification a couple of weeks ago, saying he was going to send all these documents to the Inspector General of the Justice Department first. Now he seems to be saying, I'm getting ready to declassify again. Why the change? What happened there? Navigate it.
Because Rosenstein tried to extort from the president a promise not to declassify under the threat that if he did declassify, he said Mueller will view this as an obstruction and add it to his report. And so the president backed off. What Rosenstein was trying to do was not protect the president, but rather to protect himself, Rosenstein, against the revelations, which would show that not only did he have a conflict, but it was deeply involved in the effort to try to remove the president under the 25th Amendment. The president has decided to do this because Rosenstein is gone.
Gotcha. So now that Whitaker is in charge, that threat does not hang over his head at all.
It does not, and in fact, it never existed. Rosenstein was doing what he always does. He was lying, deceiving, and manipulating the situation to his advantage.
Now, what role do the two countries that we supposedly were going to embarrass, or they had asked that this not be released? Yeah, when everybody knows now it's the Brits and the Australians. What about that role? Are we no longer concerned about them?
Well, there never was legitimate concern for sources and methods involving the Brits or the Aussies. What was of concern to the Brits was their embarrassment over the fact, and I've said this before, over illegal electronic surveillance conducted by GCHQ, which is the NSA, the National Security Agency of the United Kingdom, is called GCHQ. They conducted illegal electronic surveillance on Americans overseas at the request of the FBI and the CIA. That is what they fear being disclosed.
All right, what's next for Bob? What's next for Bob Mueller now that he's got a new boss?
I would think that he's possibly going to charge a couple of people with lying to him, but after that, I mean, he's done. There's nothing more on Russia. There never was. I mean, it's basically he's going to, who knows with somebody like Mueller. I mean, the guy obviously is. This is ridiculous that he's been here this long.
Very interesting. Now, Joe, what moves on? They were hearing about Cavanaugh impeachment as well from the Democrats. We know that Jerry Nadler was discussing that on the Acela. So I want to ask you about that. Are there any grounds at all that you can see to impeach Cavanaugh at all? Do they have anything in their arsenal?
Well, they can make up anything they want, just like they made up the charges. By the way, Christine Blasey Ford, not a thing that she said happened. She may have been delusional and believed it, but her testimony is completely false. There is utterly no corroboration whatsoever of anything that she said. And now we know that the four people involved in providing false information to the Judiciary Committee are going to be under investigation by the Justice Department. Whether or not anybody's charged, I don't know. But it is very important that people who purposely lie to a Senate committee to obstruct a Supreme Court nomination face massive federal investigation for what they have done to the American people and the process.
I must have missed it, just 30 seconds. Joe, did Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, Dianne Feinstein, any of them apologize to Judge Kavanaugh for the false accusations?
Oh my goodness! You know what? That they're going to be fun to watch as they run for president. They're going to really be fun to. Corey's going to come out of the closet. Kamala's going to talk about all of her relationships in California. It's going to be great.
Wow, that's quite a prediction. Well, thank you, Joe. Really always appreciate having you on, sir.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
Now go back to sleep.
Thanks.
Always loaded for bear.